All right. Everyone's good? Everyone can hear me? All right, so we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. So before we get into opening remarks, I wanted to introduce myself as the co-host of this conference. So my name is Jessica Marasti, and I'm a member of Flying Dust First Nation. I'm in my final year of my Bachelor of Commerce degree at the U of S. And during my time at the U of S, I've had the opportunity to co-found the IBSS, participate in the co-op program, and be an active member in the Indigenous campus community. So currently, I'm the head person of traditions and events for the IBSS. We want to sincerely thank you all for attending and supporting our second annual conference. We really appreciate it, as all of our events are 100% student-run and volunteer-based. We also just want to note that we are not part of USask as an institution. We are a proud Indigenous-led student group that comes together to advocate, create community, amplify Indigenous voices, and empower students. We also want to acknowledge that we welcome commentary about the conference itself, but we will not tolerate comments that are offensive to an individual or organization or rude, abusive to moderators or to other commenters. So now I will introduce the other co-host, Lauren Osant. So Lauren Osant is a proud citizen of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan and a third-year student at the Edwards School of Business. She is majoring in management and completing a politics and law certificate, along with her Bachelor of Commerce degree. Lauren is currently for the IBSS and is thrilled to have the opportunity to work with and learn from other Indigenous students. I will pass it off to Lauren.
Thanks, Jessica, and hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be one of our co-hosts today. So we'll start off with a land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6 territory, and that the city of Saskatoon, where the IBSS is, and all the people here are beneficiaries of this peace and friendship treaty. Treaty 6 encompasses the traditional territories of numerous First Nations, including Cree, Dene, Nakota, Saulteaux, and Ojibwe, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. And we are dedicated to ensuring that the spirit of reconciliation and Treaty 6 is honored and respected. This acknowledgement also reaffirms our relationship with one another. So we're going to begin today with our knowledge keeper, Lynden Linklater, to say an opening prayer. So Lynden J. Linklater is a traditional knowledge keeper and storyteller. He has an educational background in Indian social work, Indian studies, and some law. He is a citizen of the Thunderchild First Nation, which is Plains Cree, in Treaty 6, and presently Lynden shares work with the Redmay Modern Art Museum in Saskatoon as their Indigenous Relations Advisor, providing advice to their board and staff and delivering cultural programming. He is the longest-serving member of the Office of the Treaty Commissioner's Speakers Bureau since he was appointed in 2000. Over the years, he has spoken to tens of thousands of people, delivering awareness and enlightenment on Treaty and First Nation worldview. So I'll pass it over to Lynden now.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Jessica. I want to just start off, me too, by saying, Anto Temtik, Noa Kumagantik, Tatamskatinawao, Lynden Linklater and Siga Sun Kaptuganaoche, Nika we ekta Pisu Awasis Skigani. Agua nota we ke gats neo aski I say punpamatsit Walter Linklater siga sut nakaweno Treaty 3 agua tunemias and tunemitin geek sepuma stema ami going kabik swish stemoen. So I just wanted to start off by introducing myself. As mentioned, I come from Thunderchild Cree Nation on my mother's side. My mother is a Nehiosko, a Cree woman. And my late father, he's passed away almost 4 years now. He's been gone. And his name was Walter Linklater. And he come from Treaty 3 territory in northwestern Ontario. And he was Anishinaabe. So I proudly wear today a ribbon shirt that I saw in Edmonton. Went shopping in December, a couple months back, and I got this one place I go check out. And when I seen this ribbon shirt, my eyes popped out. I got to get that ribbon shirt because it so reminds me of on my father's side, the Anishinaabe peoples. And it kind of, coincides with this conference here, the Indigenous Business Student Society, and to talk about Minobamatsuan. That's how we say it in Anishinaabe. And in Plains Cree, we say Minobamatsuan. And the languages are similar. They, as I'm told, they both come from the Algonquian language group, which is comprised of many other First Nation languages. And amongst, within that group is Anishinaabe, as well as Nehioian, Plain Cree. And so the languages are kind of similar. But anyways, Miupamatsuan means to live a good life. I was reminiscing about my late father. I want to show you a picture here because he would always talk about this. And this is my dad here. And this is what he would say over and over and over again. He'd always say this: be kind, love each other, and try to live a good life. And he would say that. And I loved my dad. And growing up as a child, I would hear them sing. I would hear them pray. And, in being raised as best they could raise us, because both of them were residential school survivors. And we, like many families, we suffered from the impacts of those residential schools. My first language was English, because both my parents, my father totally lost his language. But my mom kept hers, even though she went to a residential school for a period of time. She kept her Plains Cree language, and to this day, she's fluent. My mom is 79 years old. But they made the decision, my mom made the decision, she's not going to teach the language to her children because she didn't want her children to experience what she went through. Anyways, like many Indigenous peoples, we suffer impacts from the residential school system. But here we are today, and I'm so happy to know that students have come together to create this Indigenous Business Student Society. Because in our traditional ways, we had other societies that existed, the Grandmother Society, or the Warrior Society, all these different offshoots of people from our culture. So here we have Indigenous business students creating a society. And what better way to start off, this virtual conference in a traditional manner, by way of prayer. And as my late father used to say, and my mom too, she still says it, before your feet hit the ground, you should be in prayer. And, despite those residential schools that existed and what they tried to do to our people, right across Turtle Island, we've tried to keep our culture alive. And I'm reminded by in Anishinaabe, in Shnabemu, in the language, we have what are called the 7 grandfather teachings, which include humility, bravery, honesty, wisdom, truth, respect, and love. And also, in the Cree culture as well, we have our own similar kind of teachings that we espouse and we want to share with our children. And it's part of our law. In fact, you'd say like Cree law. So like the Matsuan is one of them. And that means like life. And there's others like Sakituan, like love. All these other values that we espouse, like kindness, and humility. And they're represented in our culture and in our teepee poles even, they espouse these values that we want to teach. I want to read something to you, and then I'm going to do a little prayer to bless this virtual conference. But it just, as a young person, growing up, when I was young, I was learning, and I'm so grateful that I met these wonderful, beautiful people called elders. And they took me in, and they made me part of their family, and they started to teach me about our traditions, about our history, about our ways. And we share so many commonalities with other Indigenous nations, whether they're Métis nations, whether they're First Nations, Indigenous nations. So I saw this on Facebook, but what it is, it's a prayer. And when I read this prayer, it just gives me a little bit of insight into the past, how we used to think and how we need to continue to think. So this is, again, I want to really congratulate the Indigenous Business Student Society for asking me to share this message with you before we start. So this is what this very prominent individual said when he was praying. He said, trouble no one about their religion, respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and bow to none. When you rise up in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and nothing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. And the name of that prominent individual his name was Crazy Horse. And those are his words that were quoted. And so within that little prayer, I'm going to say a prayer too, as best I can in the language. In my youth growing up, as I mentioned, I met these wonderful and beautiful people. They took me in and they taught me. And as time went on, my teacher told me, one day you're going to be sitting where I'm sitting. One day I'm going to be gone, but you're going to be in here in my place, and you're going to carry this over and over again through our ceremonies. And he's been gone now a good 15 years, and true to his word, now I'm the one lighting a smudge. Now I'm the one, doing a prayer, carrying on the ceremonies. So I do this as best I can. So in closing, I just want to thank you for asking me to open your conference up in this way. I'm going to say a little prayer as best I can too. In my learning, that's what they told me, our old people and my teachers. You need to learn your language because our ancestors don't talk English. That's what he said to me. So I've been trying, and I took Cree 100, Cree 101, and I've been talking to my mama. Today now I can converse. I can carry on a conversation. I understand, it's coming. So anyways, I just want to give you that, and I want to challenge you, all you young people out there, to learn your ways, learn your traditions, learn your languages, and there's beauty and so much beauty in it. So with that, I'm just going to say a little opening prayer here. I'll be back later today around 5 o'clock when you end, and I'll be listening in throughout the day to your comments here. So I want to start off by saying, begin, gagi simutaten, bewitihiak, gisemanto gat betigit, Wichigakio quask mu payak, ugai sinoak, Wichiquask skinamasa chikigway, Shititamatan, Ganawame nan, Wichihinan gakio quas mu payak, Axititamatan, Manto, the Naskitin, Gakioki, Nutsgagisigaki, me ghostic, Kutakisiga, me ghostic, Naskitin, Naskmitinan, Gakioki, way. Hagistamin and Gawinan, Gawinaniski, Kistamin Gawin. Wichta moyak, Wichihiak, Ugai Sinok, Wichiquask mu payaki, Guay, Shititamatan, Gawinan, Kistamina, Naskutin, Nashmungakioki, way me going, me goshinan. Haxigagi simutatin, Tamagistok, the Magino Gakio. So there you go. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you for asking me to do this, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lyndon, for opening us up in a good prayer and sharing your stories. So like Lyndon said, our theme this year is Mio-Pimatissiwin. It's a traditional teaching that means living a good life. So while everyone has a purpose in life and actively strives to seek Mio-Pimatissiwin, this journey is unique for each person. So as you listen to the speakers today, we encourage you to keep the concepts of the medicine wheel in your mind and also value the stories that have come from the Indigenous youth's hearts. So as Indigenous people, we often do not speak from our minds about research and theory, but rather we share stories from our hearts. So I will pass it off to Lauren.
Thanks, Jessica. So we'd also like to thank our title sponsor of today, who is Nutrien. Please enjoy this video from Nutrien, and they're our sponsor of today's conference, so they have a video for us.
Agriculture has always pushed our world forward. The story of how we've grown our food is also the story of how we've grown our society. In early human history, cultivating plants answered our need for a more stable food supply. Harnessing tools and water meant communities could grow, and innovation fed our appetite for doing things more efficiently. And now, with our global population projected to reach 10 billion by 2050, we have to ask ourselves, how will the advances we make today answer the challenges of tomorrow? How will technology, crop inputs, and agronomic advice help growers produce more food on less land? How can we work the land while also protecting the earth? How will we make agriculture more inclusive as we feed a rapidly growing world? At Nutrien, we know that feeding the future sustainably is our industry's next great challenge. And that's a challenge we are rising to meet. Because while agriculture has always been about growing our food, it also creates solutions for a growing world.
Awesome. Thank you, Nutrien. So now I will introduce our moderator for the women's panel. So Aubrey-Anne Laliberte-Pewapisconias. She is a Neo-Hosku from Kinulake Cree First Nation on Treaty 10 territory with paternal roots to Little Pine First Nation on Treaty 6 territory. So Aubrey is currently in her final year at the U of S, pursuing her Bachelor of Commerce in Finance, is doing a Global Business Stream Certificate and an Indigenous Governments and Politics Certificate. So she is the co-founder and logistics headwoman of the Indigenous Business Student Society and VP of Academics of Edwards JDC West. So outside of campus, Aubrey has had 2 terms as the National Student Director for the Council of Advancement of Native Development Officers. She is currently a National Ambassador of Hope with the We Matter campaign and has had multiple years of experience working for Indigenous not-for-profits such as SIGA. I will pass it off to Aubrey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the Indigenous Achievement Conference. Our team has been working so hard to bring this event together, and I'm so honored to be moderating our women's panel today. Thank you for the introduction, Jessica and Lauren, and thank you so much, Lynden, for opening us up in a good way. First, I would like to touch on, why we chose to do an Indigenous women's panel, and that is because our culture is strongly based on our matriarchs. The women in our culture are very important with important roles in our communities, but with colonization, that changed the influences within our communities, and a lot of the times women were set to the side. We feel that together as Indigenous women, we are very powerful, and if we can lift each other up, hold each other up, that we have it in our bloodline to continue to lead. We are strong and we are resilient, and that is why women are the focus of the panel this morning. We will speak about being an Indigenous woman in the business world, and we believe young people need to see themselves in our role models, and that's why we have showcased such successful women entrepreneurs here today, including these 4 amazing Indigenous women. So with me today, I'm very honored to be alongside the people we have on the panel. So with us, we have Shayna Linden, Ali Bear, Shayna Thomas, and Tanya Larose. I'm going to hold off on introducing each of you because that's actually our first question. And I think that the best way for you to be able to introduce all that you do is from yourselves because you know it best. And so we'll go right into this and kind of start off with our first question, which is who are you and can you introduce yourself? And we'll start with Shayna Linden.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me and all of us. I am an Indigenous Ukrainian woman and a member of Yellow Quill First Nation, which is in Treaty 4 territory. My maternal grandmother attended residential schools, and my mother grew up during the 60s scoop and was raised primarily in foster care. And I myself was born and raised in Saskatoon. My husband and I still live here and are raising our combined 5 kids. I attended the University of Saskatchewan and obtained a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology in 2005, and also competed with the Husky women's basketball team during I was then hired by the Saskatoon Police Service in December of 2005 and have now completed 16 years of service. And about 6 years ago, I kind of reinvented myself a little bit and decided that I wanted to do and be more, I guess, above what my uniform would allow. So I stepped into the entrepreneurship side of things and co-created and co-founded Ride YXC Cycle Studio, which currently has 2 Saskatoon locations. So I'm very grateful to be here with all of you today and to have the opportunity to share with these incredible women and the amazing youth in our community. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Shayna, for sharing. Next, Rose introduce herself.
Sorry, Aubrey, who did you say?
Sorry, Tanya, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I'd like to slip in a quick thank you to the IBSS, the whole team. I'm such a big fan of all of you guys and the work you're doing. You're all so young and so driven and so organized. It's pretty amazing. About me, so I'm a First Nation Indigenous on both sides of my family. Realtor. I'm the only female self-proclaiming Indigenous realtor. It's tough industry, but I've been at it. It's going to be in 2 more years. I'll have a full decade, and I'm really proud to be serving. Not only Saskatoon as a whole and extended communities, but also sort of bridge between real estate world and the Indigenous world, because they're very, very different. I grew up on Sweetgrass First Nation. So I came from a land where, the land cannot be owned by any. First Nations are, their crown land. So coming into a world where you can purchase and sell land and, a really good revenue stream out of it is impactful, and it's something that I want to, grow community, and that's probably what drives me so much, is because I want that for our see us succeed. I want, the next generation to have it just a little bit here, but yeah, that's the business I've built. It's been 8 years of steady grinding, and I've got some systems, and I want to thank everybody who, steps up to the plate as professional. I mean, Shayna's got a wonderful business, and everybody today really does, and some really impressive ladies. So I'll just stop right there. Let the next lady take the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tanya. Next, we will ask Shayna Thomas to please introduce yourself.
Anin, Shana Thomas Nindis Nikas, Indonchi, Kinnison Soto First Nation. Hello, everyone. My name is Shana Thomas, and I'm from the Kinnison Soto First Nation, located on Treaty 4. Thank you for your patience as I learn my Nakaway language. I also have Métis roots on my mother's side, which I'm learning more about. I have a passion for learning, which has allowed me to pursue learning in different ways throughout my life, starting as a child, learning from my relations, elders, my family, the land, and then carrying that through to formal education. In 2016, I received my Bachelor of Education, and last year in 2021, I received my Master of Education with a focus in Ed Foundations and anti-oppressive and anti-racist education. Sorry, I didn't mention this earlier. I just wanted to say that I am very grateful to be here today, and I'm humbled to be among all of these individuals here today. Thank you for the prayer this morning and for starting off in a good way. My passion for wellness has also inspired me to share this gift with others. In my own life, I've seen the healing and the medicine that movement has provided myself. So I am passionate about sharing this gift with others. So both my passion for learning and my passion for wellness has motivated and inspired me to be a co-founder and vice president of Nawo Wellness, which is a wellness and education business which aims to support all aspects of self. Other individuals on our team are Kayla Henneque, Lavina Tatusis, and Kennedy Monich. So we are a team of 4 Indigenous women, which I am very excited about. And that is a little bit about me, and I'll pass it on to the next person. Again, thank you so much for the time today, and I'm looking forward for all the learning.
Thank you so much, Shayna, and we will pass it off to our 4th panelist, Ali Bear. Oh, you're just on mute.
Oh, geez. Really? My thing doesn't say I'm on mute.
We can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I was having technical difficulties, so I switched devices, and so hopefully I'm here. You guys can hear me. Great. So first of all, thank you, Aubrey, for inviting us, having us here, and to the Indigenous Business Student Society. Also, thank you to Lynden for the opening prayers. And, I want to thank each and every single one of you who is here today, who's listening, and everybody I'm on the panel with, and all the hard work that they do. So I'll introduce myself. Hahana washte tuwe iohana chiapi tatankaskawi amakia peye wapahaska oyate tahamahi. Good morning. My name is Tatankaskawi. I'm from Wapahaska Oyate, which is Whitecap Dakota First Nation. And my dad, that's where he's from. He's from Whitecap. But my mother is from Cody First Nation, Treaty 4 territory, and she's a Badger, her maiden last name. My grandmother's from Cowes First Nation. Her maiden last name is Larose, and she married my papa, Oliver Cameron, who has now passed on from Beardy's Okomesis. So I'm very proud of who I am, people of the Plains, and I'm very proud of, being able to be the Vice Chief of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations and, represent and advocate for our people on that stage. Because there's a lot of issues that are ongoing. So a little about me, I'm a mother. I have 2 daughters. They are 6 and 7. They're my world. They're the reason why I do what I do. They're the reason why I have went on to post-secondary. I achieved my first degree in sociology with a minor in Indigenous Studies in 2017. I went on to law school. I achieved my law degree in 2020. And then I got called to the bar just last year. I was admitted as a lawyer. And from there, I had a few people being like, oh, are you going to run for the elections? Are you going to run for vice chief? And you know what? We did it and we made it happen. And I'm very grateful for all those who supported me during my campaign. It was, a lot of work. And as Tanya was saying, just grinding for the past 8 years nonstop. And, just props to you for that, because, it's not easy to keep going, but it's important to keep going because, we have a lot of younger generations looking up to us that we need to continue paving the way for, and also continue the work of those who came before us. So Patamaya, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. It's so great to hear about all that you do. Very strong Indigenous women in our community, and we're so happy to have you here today. With that, I do just want to remind our audience to please feel free to utilize the chat function. There's also a Q&A function, so if you have any questions for our panelists, please put them in there, and we will do our best to get to them in this time frame. And so moving into our next question, in a couple minutes, can you describe how you got to where you are now, and, kind of your journey? So we'll start with this one with Tanya.
Sure. Just a moment to unmute there. Yeah, I'll try and keep it short in a nutshell. And I'm going to be candid in the spirit of womanhood, because I feel like I may be an audience to share this with. But how I got into the industry was my husband was cheating at the time. He cheated a lot. You know what they say, hell hath a woman scorned. But I took all of that angst and all of those, that I had previously planned for my life, was to be a stay-at-home mom, completely turned on its back, as life tends to do. And, fast forward to today, it was a jump into real estate. It's a very difficult industry. When people say it's cutthroat, it is. But I've grown some really thick skin over the years, perseverance and not giving up, and, just getting used to being told the word no. After so many no's, you get a lot of yeses too, and you start to become an expert in your field, and you're able to really help some people in a really impactful way, and factor, and in hindsight, really my only regret is 5 and not 18. So if there's students listening, I really encourage you just to take whatever's on your heart. Us as Indigenous spiritual, and I believe that we all have this sort of innate connection and guidance, and I just want everybody to, really remember to trust yourself, and our ancestors were brave. It's in our blood. We're brave women.
Wow, thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing. We really appreciate you every time you join the IBSS to share your story. It's so inspiring. So we'll hand it over next to Shayna Thomas. How did you get to where you are now?
All right, so right out of high school, I went to university to get my B.Ed. Growing up, it wasn't a question whether you were going to go to university or not. It's what are you going to do in university? So having that mindset of the importance of formal education helped me to achieve my B.Ed and M.Ed. I currently in my 6th year of teaching, and last year one of my colleagues, Kayla Hennick, came to me and a couple other of the women on our team, and we were wondering how to support people in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of COVID, where mental health especially was on the rise. So that kind of was a catalyst for us in launching our business. With that being said, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. And even when I still say it now, I'm still used to using that language because the business is so new in its inception. And I am such a fresh new entrepreneur. So it's exciting. With that being said, it's been one of the best decisions of my life to pursue this business path. And I'm really grateful for the opportunities that it's provided me. A little bit also about how I got here, or I guess where I'm going next with the growth of our business. I will be stepping away from the classroom to pursue Nawa Wellness full time, which is very exciting. And yeah, that's a little bit about how I got here, and I'll pass it on to the next one. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Shayna. I follow Nawa Wellness, very impressed with all that you've been able to do alongside your partners. So I wish you all the best in that. And next we'll go to Ali Bear.
Hi. So yeah, it's been quite the journey to where I've gotten here. When I was younger, definitely being in sports, being inspired by my family's work ethic, seeing my mom achieve her master's and take care of me and my brothers while my dad was away doing the political thing a lot of the time. It just really instilled in me that work ethic and that drive and being proud of who I am and embracing my identity and being able to have that seeing my dad with his headdress, and when he was knocking barriers down and paving that trail, it inspired me and lit that fire in me. And then also, my grandparents, they're all hard workers. They were all, my great grandma Sarah was a single mother as well, who raised my mom and one of her sisters. And my grandma Ruth was in the Catholic school board system, and they're always one of the only Indigenous peoples in the spaces that they were in. And I always seen them battling. And so it was just something that was kind of happened naturally and organically. Like I was never younger and I was never had this thought of being a vice chief or being a lawyer, but and then it happened where I met friends and who inspired me. And when one of those friends is somebody I know, maybe Shayna knows too, is Kate Montour, and she was really there for me when I went through a really bad car accident and I actually lost my right eye, and that kind of could have set me down a path, and it did set me down a really bad path for a bit, coping through unhealthy mechanisms. But then I kind of started to embrace like that loss and that pain and my scars. And I started to use it as strength instead of seeing it as, I look a certain way, or, it was really hard to be 17 and be scarred and lose your eye. And, because we're in a world that's like, oh, you're supposed to look like this and you're supposed to be like that. But, I had a good friend and then I lost her because she took her own life. But then when I got to post-secondary school, I opened up my very, very first book, and it was called Visions of the Heart. And I just sporadically opened it up to a random page, and it said Patricia Montour is her mom. And that was it. I was just like reading all her stuff, and she became a lawyer, and she was a Mohawk, warrior woman who navigated these colonial systems. And I was just like, she can do it, I can do it. So it was, and then I'm like, and she passed away too after. And so I'm thinking, who's going to carry on this work? Who's going to carry on her work? Who's going to carry on the work of all these other leaders and warriors who've been pushing forward? And I don't know. I felt like somebody had to do it. And for some reason, I took that on. And then, having my daughters in undergrad, a lot of people like kind of expect you to like drop out or, and I was just like, no, I want to show other single moms that they don't have to. You can still pursue what you want to pursue. You can still pursue your dreams, your goals, no matter what, even if you are a mom, because I've seen that a lot. It's just like society and that stigma of being a single mom too. It's just like, oh, she's a single mom. And no, that's a beautiful thing. And, even if you're single mom or not a single mom, like you're a family. And that's another thing I had to embrace and really wanted to break barriers and continue to break toxic cycles and for my children. And that's basically what's got me here was having my daughters. I quit drinking. I was got to 7 years sober. I had a slip in 2020, and like, we're all human and we all make mistakes. And, so that's another thing too, is just not to be hard on yourself and to realize that, that everything makes us who we are, not to regret the past. And that's why, not regretting my car accidents and what happened to me, because it's made me who I am. And so that's kind of what got me here in a nutshell. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ali, for sharing and being so open with your sharing. I know our audience truly appreciates it. And then we'll go to our fourth panelist, Shayna Linden. How did you get to where you are now?
Thanks so much. Well, I knew in university that I wanted to work with and for the community in some capacity. And I kind of didn't know what that looked like at the time, as I know many young students feel or can relate to that. And I also still wanted to feel that team aspect and work towards the physical requirements that I loved about competitive sport. And I coming from various competitive sports and then pursuing basketball at the university level. So what better way than to serve the community, to come up with ways to challenge my body and to feel that team aspect than to break down barriers in the police service, to put on a uniform and to serve our community in some of the most challenging positions of individuals' lives. Like, that's, the reality is when you phone the police, those are some of your worst moments in life. So if I could be a part of that change and that relationship building and owning our communities by being a face that shows up in those moments and aiding people in their own growth and in their own healing, then that was the right fit for me. And so that just kind of came about. And I mentioned when I introduced myself, I've now been a police officer for 16 years. And I kind of felt like at some point I worked years in patrol and emergency response. And then I spent a long time working in our school resource section with young people, and then into our traffic section for the past 5 years. And I kind of felt at some point that I was kind of scraping the surface of my own potential, that there were limitations to my uniform that wouldn't allow me to do and to be the person that I really wanted to in the community. There's a beautiful thing about policing and what I'm able to achieve when I respond or when I work with people, but there's a line there. There's a line in what I can do in a uniform to pursue growth and connection and community building. So that led me into the entrepreneurship world. And after a lot of research and planning and so many moments of fear and self-doubt, Ride YXC Cycle Studio was created, and it has given me a totally different platform for growth and for lasting change and for community impact. And now we are 6 years in, coming out of a pandemic and maintaining 2 Saskatoon locations. And I guess at this point, I'm still asking myself what I want to do next.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shayna. Fun fact, I actually used to work for Shayna at Ride, so I'm very happy to be moderating the panel that she's on. But moving into our next question here for our panelists, and thank you so much for your answers to these last couple. Our next one I have for you is, how do you believe identifying as a woman has impacted your experience in the business world? And so this one will start with Laliberte.
Yeah, so I want to acknowledge, like, I don't own my own business, or, I did work in the corporate world. I worked in corporate law, and I worked at 2 really large law firms. One was an international law firm called Gowling WLG, which I worked at for 2 summers in Vancouver, and I worked primarily in the Indigenous law sector. And then I worked at McKercher LLP out of Saskatoon, and I did corporate law, which I did also, was incorporating businesses and so forth. And I did actually do some work with Shayna and Neo Wellness, which I was really happy to do. I was always trying to promote Indigenous businesses as much as I can, and like incorporate everybody, and like, can I give people deals? Like, because like it's really expensive to hire a lawyer and to retain a lawyer. And that was one issue I had working in the corporate world, is like it's expensive, and that's that huge access to justice issue. And I was just like, I was having this like pull, like, why can't can I be the access to justice lawyer and you guys all make the money? Like, can I help people? Because legal aid, honestly, like they're overburdened. Their files are stacked so high. Like it's not fair when it comes to our people and not having that access to justice and not knowing how to navigate the legal world. And as a woman, I always kind of, for a very long time, even though today, things are getting better, but patriarchy, misogyny, it's all still there. It's all still alive. And I think Tanya mentioned cutthroat, world. I think in each profession and industry, it's very much like that. It's not what it seems. Like I worked super hard to get my law degree and, to get to this place and become a lawyer. And then they're still not taking me seriously. Like, why? So I now, kind of leveled up again here at Vice Chief. And so I'm just like, the guys that weren't taking me seriously now definitely are listening a little bit more. But now in the political realm, there's still this whole issue with women in leadership, women wearing headdresses, which I mean, there was a bit of a thing that came out on Facebook for a bit there, discussing me wearing a headdress with my arm showing. And to be honest with you, I think, there's a lot of other chiefs out there doing a lot of other things that they should be getting called out for when it comes to misogyny and patriarchy. And as a woman, just because my arms are showing, I'm getting called out. Oh, because I'm young, I'm getting called out. If I was a young man, I wouldn't be getting called out. I know that. And so it's another world to navigate, being a young woman in leadership and being taken seriously again, and always being told, oh, she's young. Okay, I'm not too young, just kidding. But I have 2 kids, I have 2 degrees, I have a lived life experience, and education, and I do go to ceremony and Sundance, and so it's really hard, continuing to try to be taken seriously just because I'm a woman or a mother or I'm young. But it's a battle that we need to keep fighting. And I think that, I just want to inspire more young women to push for leadership positions, because right now we're coming into a very important time in history with, pandemics and climate change. And we really need leadership to lead from the heart and to make those decisions for our future generations. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ali, again, for sharing. That was so helpful. Next, I will pass it over to Shayna Linden.
Awesome. Growing up, I never really felt like I fit into a specific gender norm of any kind. I kind of played a bunch of different sports. I had never danced or done anything that would be considered stereotypical female activities, I guess. So I never really looked at it like I was a girl doing what male things should be or had been as a standard at some point in that cookie cutter type of attitude, I guess. And I played basketball. I pursued policing as a career. I got into entrepreneurship, and I did realize pretty quickly that I actually was surrounded by a lot of men, obviously applying to the police service. Now we're over 25% female, but at the time that wasn't the case. And it certainly wasn't the case for Indigenous women. I didn't know of anybody else at the time when I had been hired with Saskatoon. So there has been many challenges in that way. And it's kind of one of those things that you have to embrace who you are. Just like Vice Chief Laliberte said, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if you're a woman. It doesn't matter if you want to lead or if you want to pursue things. Gender has no impact on this. It's your skills, it's your experience, it's your desire to succeed and to succeed for your family and for your people. If anything, coming into today's norms and values, gender has no bearing. How you identify has no bearing. It's you as a person and as a soul that can lead and create and work towards sustainable and meaningful change in our communities. When I started into the business world, I reached out to many male-owned studios across Canada, and I had no responses. None. I never had anybody respond back to me or collaborate or give me any insight or help or a hand up. And I knew right from there that I wouldn't be the first female, and I actually wasn't. I just didn't know at the time of any others. But I wouldn't be somebody that would lead in that way, that wouldn't lend a hand, and I would be a different kind of an owner and a different kind of an entrepreneur. And since then, I have mentored many other women starting studios across Canada and stayed true to that, because it's not about personal success. It's about raising good kids. It's about collaborating with our community, and it's about rising as a people. So we have to look at it in that capacity. So, men, women, it doesn't matter how you identify. It's what you do, what you're prepared to do. and the way that you not just show up, it's the way that you lend a hand to others to do the same.
Wow. Powerful, powerful words. Thank you so much, Shayna. That was amazing. Next, we'll hand it over to Shayna Thomas.
All right, so I think representation in the business world is very important, and even just mere representation of Indigenous women in a very male and often colonial-driven setting or settings is a catalyst in creating these spaces and showing greater representation for people who want to pursue that as well, or who want to pursue these spaces as well. As my team is 3 other Indigenous women, our niche is primarily Indigenous women and girls. With that being said, as we grow, we would like to expand our operations in the future, but we really feel that, as mentioned before, the women are the matriarchs and the leaders in our communities. And you'll have to forgive me, as I don't know who said this. Maybe someone in the chat can let me know, but they say if you can heal a woman, you can heal a nation. And when we work on healing ourselves, work on taking care of our whole being, we can better support other people. So with that, representation is important to show that it can be done. For myself and some other colleagues, not having as many Indigenous female role models was a motivating factor in us pursuing this business, providing more representation and more opportunities to learn from role models that our Indigenous youth look like or can relate to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shayna Thomas. That was super helpful. You'll notice I'm saying last names because we have some people on the panel with the same name, so I'm just trying to keep it clear. But last but not least, Tanya Larose, can you tell us how identifying as a woman has impacted your experience in the business world?
Yeah, for sure. So, I really want to just where the viewers will benefit the most. So to keep things short and know that it's going to affect you in every which way. It has for me anyways. Not only the Indigenous aspect, but the female aspect. When I say every which way, I don't mean like it's, throwing you left and right constantly. There's going to be a lot of subtleties that you'll notice. And, I think every day can agree that there are those subtleties that still exist. And, and I always like to stay, solution focused. So I want to stress, thanks to, entities like, different community leaders. I know FSIN really support, the Indigenous women overall as STC and entities and the leaders. I think it's just so important that that show that support, and because that's who we learn from. We learn from our so yeah, and I think also if we the mentality that us as Indigenous women, we're sisters. It's nowhere, when one of us wins, we all win, and it's a step in the right direction for our generation. A lot of us are mothers. It's going to help our children have it a little less difficult than we did. They didn't face quite as many stereotypes, racism, these, so that and today's entire lineup that IBSS has is a testament to where we're headed as Indigenous women. That's there.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I really always appreciate hearing you speak. And then for our next two questions, also just a reminder to the audience, please utilize that Q&A function. We would love to ask our panelists some questions from you as well. But going into this next one, I'm going to ask two of you a question and then the other two of you the second question. So just so we can try to get as many covered in here as possible. And so our first one, I'm going to ask to Shayna Thomas and Tanya Larose, what advice do you have to Indigenous women just entering the business world? And so we'll start with Tanya.
My advice would be confident. Even if you don't feel confident, be it. Do the work, take the steps. You know, there's literally instructions all over the internet. Confident, work on that until you've got it nailed down. You know, like nobody's born, confident, but there's few things more mesmerizing. Intelligent, compassionate, confident Indigenous women. I just really want to see more of that. So confidence, forefront of the mind.
Thank you, Tanya. That was super helpful. We appreciate that. And then next to Shayna Thomas.
So when asked this question, three big things came to mind. The first one is to collaborate and ask for help. The worst thing that someone's going to do when you ask for help is say no, and that's fine. A good saying I like to think about is when life says yes to you, that's creator's direction, but when life says no to you, that's creator's protection. So as mentioned earlier, I think it was you, Tanya, that said that get used to saying or hearing no and just seeing that as a redirection in your journey to success or your journey in life. The second thing is focus on mindset, because without belief in self, it's really hard to go towards and to reach your dreams and to dream bigger. And then the third one, which has really helped myself, is to really focus on your own health and wellness and to focus on nourishing all aspects of self. I know for myself, when I put my spiritual wellness on the back burner, it affects all other quadrants and all other aspects of myself. So trying to balance our own individual medicine wheels is something that has helped me in business, in education, in life. And I think it fits really well with this year's theme, living Miopamatsuin or Minopamatsuin in my Nakaway language. And I hope someone was able to take something out of that. Miigwech, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Shayna. We appreciate it. And then on to our next question for Shayna Linden and Vice Chief Laliberte. Why do you feel it is important to have Indigenous women represented in the business world and in leadership positions? So we'll start this one with Vice Chief Laliberte.
I think to play off what Shayna was saying before, it's that representation is really important for our youth to see themselves in these spaces. Because I've noticed that right now. I've had tons of young women and young girls. I had a young girl from high school do a report and a presentation on me, and she asked to interview me, and she was non-Indigenous too. So I mean, we need to inspire all of our young women, our youth, everything, and young men, everybody, or older, younger. But I get a lot of messages, and I think that, you know, it's just, I think when you see somebody do it and you think you know that you can do it too, I think it makes it easier. And that's what when I seen and studied Patricia Montour for so many years, I'm just like, it's kind of what kept me going and reading her papers and her books and just like, the difficulties that she went through. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. Right. So that's why we always feel like really alone, I think, or we think we're the only ones going through something, but we're not, and we have this community and of strong matriarchs before us, but we just need to kind of figure out, navigate who's in our corner, who supports us, who do we trust, because at the same time, at the end of the day too, like there's still a lot of lateral violence that we need to navigate, and we need to understand that sisterhood and supporting each other and taking care of each other and not trying to battle for these positions at tables. I see that sometimes, people trying to overspeak one another, like women in certain meetings or certain settings. And, I think that we need to just kind of continue to create that space at the table and have that balance where we have, all diversity, right? Diversity at the table when it comes to all colors of people, and it comes to all genders of people, because in all ages as well. And because I see that there's a lack of, representation of a certain age, or a lack of representation of a certain type of First Nation who's at the table. And I'm like, well, how come we're all speaking for them? We need to invite them to the table. We need to make space. We need to pull up another chair, and so right now too, in that area, like we're starting a women's lodge here in Saskatoon, and hopefully it's going to be opening in the next few months. And that's just to create this space and the safe space for women to come together and speak. I did that in my own community of Whitecap. I founded the Dakota Winyan Society, but at the time I was balancing that and law school and writing for Eagle Feather News and being a single mom. And I just was like, I was starting to lose my mind. But, I think that representation really does matter. And I think for so many years, our youth didn't have that. And now they're seeing that, and they're feeling inspired and empowered, and I can do this too. And I feel that from the messages I get from people, and a lot of men too actually reach out and tell me about their daughters and how happy they are that their daughters have me to look up to in leadership. And so that means a lot to me, because I'm a mother, and I have 2 girls, and and I love them seeing like my friends, like one of my friends, Michaela Shannon, she's like a really big, she's a model, and we see her in the mall, and they're just like, oh my God, it's Michaela, it's Auntie Michaela, so things like that is so important, because the girls can see themselves in them. And I think that I've spoken to a couple high schools and a couple schools, and a lot of young girls like speak up at the end, and they just light up, because I'm coming to them as someone they can relate to, and someone they can see themselves in, not somebody who might be, older male, kind of speaking to them. They might not be able to see themselves in that person. And so in this way, I think it really does kind of change that dynamic in their own head of what they can achieve and what they can do, because they all have it within them already. That power is already there. The potential is already there. They just need somebody to, spark that fire. So I'm happy if I can do that for somebody. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I love everything that you touched on. That was super helpful to our audience. And we'll hand it over to Shayna Linden.
I totally echo what Ali said. It's just so incredibly important for everyone to feel represented in some capacity. Businesses and organizations should absolutely be striving to be reflective of the communities they serve. That's how people feel represented. That's how they start to feel like they do have a seat at the table. And that's when we know that our voices are being heard, because we are reflected in businesses and organizations in our communities, and not just a seat at the table, but in leadership positions. It's inspiring. It also means that we have role models. We have role models for our youth, for each other, and people paving the way for our future generations. And when we start to see ourselves in these roles, and even beyond the roles that we've traditionally seen, we start to see our future, and it looks bright. It looks exciting when we start to see one another rise like that. And it continues to provide us a greater sense of value and belonging. And we know that belonging is a basic human need. So when we start to feel that value, by being reflected, by being honored, by being heard, it's healing. It's healing of traumas and histories, and it's breaking down cycles and barriers, and kind of recreating the colonial history that we've grown up with, and seeing that change and that start to grow and flourish. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for seeing young people like you, Aubrey, having an opportunity to work with me and just seeing you shine. It's inspiring for all of us. So it's not just about those of us that feel we've achieved something. It's seeing who comes next that keeps me motivated.
Wow. Thank you, Shayna. It's always a pleasure working alongside you. I just want to say we're going to wrap up our women's panel here. And I just want to say that I think all 4 of you panelists have shown, extreme strength in our communities. And you have shared so much wisdom here today. Our Indigenous Business Student Society team cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join us. As well, if you can take a peek at the chat, you can see how much our audience has truly appreciated every word that you have said. And, this is going to be a recording that's available afterwards as well. So people will be able to continue hearing your words and what you've done. And we'll all continue following your journey moving forward. What you said is it's beautiful, it's powerful. Like we said at the start of this panel, is that Indigenous women are strong and resilient and leaders. And every single one of you exemplified that today. And you truly showed our theme of living the good life, Mio Pimatsuin. And we're so thankful for having you here today. And so thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. And with that, we welcome all of our attendees to join our networking area where you can talk with people, build your network, and reflect on the panel that we just heard. And so with that, thank you, Shayna, Tanya, and Vice Chief Laliberte. Everybody, please have a great rest of your day.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a great time networking and were able to meet a couple new people. So our next speaker today is Kendra Jesse. She is a Cree and Ukrainian woman from Sucker Creek First Nation in traditional Treaty 8 territory in northern Alberta. As an Indigenous woman, she uses her Instagram and TikTok platforms to educate on Indigenous culture and inspire future generations. Kendra loves to share her culture through the art of dance as a fancy shawl dancer. Kendra is a certified personal fitness trainer, Nike N7 athlete, and wellness facilitator. She advocates for healing within Indigenous communities through mindful movement, holistic health, and cultural practices. Kendra has a Bachelor of Sport Management honors degree from Brock University. Her passion for health, wellness, and movement is driven by her childhood as an athlete, where she played hockey for 15 years and competed at the university level. Kendra is a certified hockey coach through the National Coaching Association of Canada. She has goals to create inclusion and space for Indigenous people and their voices within the wellness and sport industries. Furthermore, Kendra is a freelance model and has worked with brands and artists such as Cheekbone Beauty, Section 35, and appeared in 2 music videos with Indigenous rappers Snotty Nose Raz Kids. So I'll pass it over to Kendra now.
Tanse, hello everyone. My name is Kendra, and I just want to first start by just thanking Creator for just another beautiful day. Sometimes I can get nervous doing things like this because I feel like I'm not worthy, or I get like kind of imposter syndrome, but I try to remind myself that, you know, if I wasn't asked to do this, or if this opportunity didn't come my way, you know, it wouldn't be meant for me. But I also want to thank Aubrey for asking me to be here, and I'm really grateful to the University of Saskatchewan for giving me this opportunity. As a young girl, I would have never imagined myself doing speaking events like this or speaking in front of people. I was like a really shy young girl, but yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about the theme today, Mio Pamatsuan. And so I want to talk about how I first heard that term and that word. And so I didn't get to grow up with culture, or I didn't get to grow up living on my community. And so reconnecting and reclaiming was something that came later in my life as a young adult. And the first time I heard Mio Pamatsuan was, I was working as a youth sports mentor, and we were on a leadership retreat with some high school aged youth. And there was a knowledge keeper there, and he actually had known my dad from the past, like through hockey and sports and stuff like that. And so it was a really good week. I got to like learn a lot from him, and he's fluent in the language and writing it. And at the end of the week, we did this activity where we had a clear candle holder, and we all wrote something on the candle holder. And on my candle holder, he wrote Mio Pamatsuan. And I didn't know what it meant at the time, so I asked him, and he explained it to me. You know, it means like living your life as in a good way as an Indigenous person. And so that really, really resonated with me. And it was I just thought there's such a beautiful word, a beautiful just term, and it really resonated in my heart. And I think from then on, I really did start living that Mio Pamatsuan, you know, just having someone that was able to believe in me and to give me that confidence and instill that in me, that I'm capable of doing that. I'm capable of living a good life and having a good life. And so that's really just helped me to start embracing living a good life. And so there's a few different ways that I do that. And I believe that, you know, living that Mio Pamatsuan it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. It's going to be kind of like whatever, like, you know, is in your heart, in your soul, that's your passion, that, you know, your soul fire. That's really how you live your Mio Pamatsuan, is just by chasing that and by pursuing that and believing that, you know, you're capable of whatever it is that you want to accomplish in whatever ways that you want to live that Mio Pamatsuan. And so some of the ways that I try to do it was, I think really the first part is just been community building, because I didn't get to grow up in my home community of Sucker Creek First Nation. And so I don't have a strong connection there. I have family from there, but I don't have a strong connection to a lot of the knowledge keepers or the elders and people in the community, because I don't live very close. And that's definitely one of my goals, is to get more connected to my home community and be doing more work there and working with youth and elders and women. But I didn't have a strong sense of community growing up. And I also didn't have a strong sense of identity. I was really kind of ashamed of being Indigenous because I wasn't connected to culture and community. And all I really kind of knew was just like the really just rank and racist stereotypes that I would hear from, like teachers, like other students in my school, friends, or, my friends' parents. And because I am mixed and I am white passing, a lot of people don't think or assume that I'm Indigenous. So like I hear people just say like the worst things and they're like, oh, well, not you though. And it's like, well, it is me though. Like that's part of me. That's my identity, my culture. And so it caused a lot of just shame and insecurities and just identity issues, unconfidence. And it really wasn't until I started putting in an effort to just build a greater community of support and just a network of people, of mentors and just connections that I really started to living that Mio Pamatsuan. And so one way that I really started to try building my community, because I didn't have a strong connection to my own, was I just started showing up. I started volunteering with Indigenous organizations so that I could meet other people in the community or meet mentors or elders. And I would volunteer at like Native centers within the cities because I am an urban Native. And I would volunteer with sport organizations. Like I volunteered with Alberta Indigenous Games, and I volunteered as an assistant hockey coach with Six Nations minor hockey. And so I really just started kind of showing up. And so I also started applying for jobs with Indigenous organizations. And I got a job with a program called Alberta's Future Leaders. And so I was a youth sports mentor with the program, and I got to go live and work in a rural community up north in Treaty 8 territory. I got to live there and work there for the summer with another, the arts mentor was her role. And so we got to live there and work together for the whole summer. And my kind of perspective going into that was like, oh, I'm so excited to go, like, having an opportunity to live in community and, to work with youth and, I want to change their lives. And I really didn't realize how much they were really going to change my lives and how much they were really going to inspire me and just change me so much, because, I really get a lot of my motivation and inspiration from the future generations. And I feel like they inspire me to do a lot of the work that I'm doing, or just taking up space and believing in myself, because they look up to me as a role model and they believe in me. So it's like, it makes me want to believe in myself. And so I got that job, and that really, really changed kind of my whole life, my whole perspective. It introduced me to so many amazing mentors and elders and just friends that I have for life now. And so yeah, that was really one way that really helped me to just start living that Mio Pamatsuan. And also I started going to school, and I started taking like courses in university that helped me to learn more about the history and just the issues that are happening in our communities. And just one second, I'm gonna have some water. But yeah, and also just going to school and learning in that aspect really helped a lot. And I also started showing up to like networking events or speaking events like this. Like I would go alone just so I could try to build that greater sense of community. And just by doing all of those things, I met so many just amazing people who have really, really changed my life and helped me to get on a good path and to start living that Mio Pamatsuan. And so I say that, I am and I always will be community made, because, that greater community that I have now of support and mentors and elders and knowledge keepers really helped me to live that Mio Pamatsuan. And so I think through community building and just meeting different people and elders and everything, I was able to get a greater connection to my culture and to ceremony. And ceremony is one of, I think, the biggest ways now that I really live that Mio Pamatsuan. I love going to the sweat lodge and going to ceremonies and just being around elders and knowledge keepers and hearing the singing and the drums. And so I currently reside in Calgary, Alberta now. And the main reason why I moved out here was to be closer to ceremony, because my ceremony family lives in Sutina, which is in Treaty 7 territory. And it's not very far from Calgary. It's right kind of on the outskirts, like almost like a suburb of the city. But it's nice so that, every Sunday it's like a 15-20 minute drive to go out to ceremony and go get to sweat and, be in ceremony. And so ceremony is one way that I think it's changed a lot for me. It's really, I grew up like my father came from a very Christian family. And when I was younger, I feel like I never really could like fully resonate or like feel safe in that kind of religion, because the way my dad's family went about it was really, they instilled a lot of fear in me. They made it seem like, if I wasn't a perfect person, if I made mistakes, like I was going to like go to hell kind of thing. And they instilled a lot of fear in it. So it really kind of just scared me. It made me feel like God was just this big guy in the sky, like judging everything that I'm doing. And it made me scared to want to do things, and made me scared of church also, because I was like, well, I'm not a perfect person. I kind of thing. And also like, I grew up playing sports. I played hockey. So hockey tournaments and games were always on the weekends. And so we couldn't go to church every Sunday, and they kind of instilled a lot of shame and like guilt in us, and because we weren't going. And so I really kind of never had a strong connection to source, to God, to creation, kind of whatever you want to call it. But growing up, I never had that strong connection to creator. And because I feel like I had a lot of fear of him. I just thought he was judging me, and that I was going to go to hell because I wasn't living a perfect life. And it wasn't really till I started going to ceremony and going to sweat, and especially with my ceremony family, the Eagle Tails, it's just, they approach it in such a different way. It just comes from a place of so much love. And I love going in the sweat and being able to just have that really intimate and special time with creator, and being able to just, pray to him and talk to him and just feel his, like, the love and everything in the sweat lodge. And it's just very, very powerful to me. And that's definitely one way that's really helped me to start living that Mio Pamatsuan. And, ceremony is just, it's so special to my heart now. And it's something that, I want to make a part of the rest of my life. And, I want it to be a part of my children's life, my grandchildren's life. And it's just really special to me. And I think through ceremony, one of the other ways that really has helped me to live Mio Pamatsuan is crying. Growing up, I had a negative view about crying. Like, I'm like, you cry, you're weak. You're like, it's not okay to cry. Like, you got to be strong and got to be a big girl, And so I never really had a really negative view around crying, and I never wanted to cry. Like, I would just kind of hold things in, and like, it would only come out when it was like time to like explode. And so I just had a very negative view around crying. And it wasn't until I started going into ceremony and going into the sweat lodge that I realized how powerful crying is. And, I'm almost going to cry right now. But I just realized that it's like, every time I go in the sweat lodge, honestly, I cry so much. And I feel like I never really understood how powerful it was. And there's a lot of even just Indigenous teachings around crying, and how, like, it's a form of release, and it helps us to let go of, our pain, our trauma, our hurt, our heartbreak, whatever we're going through. It's really a form of release. And I never viewed it like that before. And until I started going to ceremony, and I started being able to just cry and be able to just let out whatever, my pain was, like things that, I didn't have the words to say or to let out, or I never like knew how to explain them. I'm able to just go sit in ceremony and just cry. And I just not having a negative view around it, or viewing myself as weak, or, I'm a baby, and so, just crying really, I think, has really helped me also. It's kind of, because I did have a negative view around it, and now it's like, that's one of the ways that really helps me to live that Mio Pamatsuan, is just being able to let go of whatever it is that I'm carrying, and just knowing that I don't have to carry it with me and let it weigh me down and bring me down. I can go in the sweat lodge, I can cry, I can release it, I can let it go, and I can give it to Creator, and he can take that on for me. He can help me to heal. And so definitely crying, I think, is one of the things I've really learned that has helped so much with living that Tamil Pamatsuan. And now, like, you know, I don't stop myself from crying. Like some days that's just like, you know, I'm in a mood where I'm not happy, and it's kind of like, I don't really know why, but I think that's kind of just intergenerational trauma, because my father does carry a lot of anger still with him. And I find that some days I'm just mad and angry for no reason. And that's how I know it's intergenerational trauma, because it's like nothing wrong is going on, but it's just like, I'm just so angry at the world. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at everything. And it's good to just cry and just release and let that go. And it's cute because I have a little puppy too. Her name's Quay. And dogs are really, really powerful. They're really good medicine too. She always knows when I'm crying, and she'll just come up and she'll just put her little paws on my face and just start licking my tears away. And she'll just keep licking and licking and licking. And it's like she just knows. And so it's nice too to just have her there to just lick my tears away. But yeah, and so I think one of the other ways that I've started to live that Male Pamatsuan is through a lot of good mentorship and a lot of good influences and role models in my life that I started to meet through community building and going to ceremony and being around elders and stuff, and just learning about sobriety. And I never really, like, you know, I kind of like living a sober life was just not something that I really had a lot of people doing around me. And it was just kind of something that seemed weird, or I just, you know, it didn't seem like, you know, I could live a fun life, or, you know, be like a fun young person, like, and be sober. And it was one of my mentors, Andrew Starblanket. It was actually when I was on that same kind of leadership retreat. He told me about the teaching with alcohol and how your spirit will leave your body for 4 days, and it takes 4 days for it to fully return when you consume substances. And I had never heard that before in my life, and it really, really hurt my heart, and it really resonated with me. But it hurt my heart because I just thought about how many days of my life that I wasn't living as my true self, and, like, you know, I wasn't addicted to, you know, I didn't have addictions or anything like that, but you know, it was something that I used like casually or to have fun, or, you know, if I was having a shitty week, I would, you know, indulge in substances, or, you know, if I had a heartbreak, I would indulge in substances, or, you know, I'm just mad or angry, I had a shitty day, or I'm struggling with school or just life and stressed out, you know, I would turn to substances to kind of try to like suppress that energy or that emotions or whatever it is that I was feeling. And I just found that, like, it goes away for a little bit, you know, when you indulge in the substances, but I just found it kept on returning, you know, it kept on returning. And so I found myself indulging, you know, more and more as I got to be, like, you know, a young adult and I was of age to drink. And I just found myself indulging more and more, because it was like, it would go away for a bit and then it'd come back, and I just kept indulging in more to try to just, you know, kind of get away from that negative energy and emotions that I was feeling, because I didn't really have any outlets other than kind of like sports and movement to help me. But at the end of the day, like, it's not enough, and it's not, you know, sometimes not the instant kind of relief that I needed. And so that's why I would turn to substances. And so hearing that teaching really kind of just changed my whole perspective on it, and how, you know, like and you can really, I could have really feel like, you know, that teaching, like, it's true, you know, when I'm hungover, I'm like, so like, I'm incapable, I can't do anything. And like, as I got to be older too, it was almost like the hangovers were like 2 days where it's like, I'm hungover from my hangover. And so it was just led to a lot of just like more negative feelings that I was already feeling from trauma and my, you know, growing up and everything. And so just, I found indulging in substances really, that kind of just put into perspective how it wasn't helping me. And I needed to make some changes in order to, you know, start living that meal pamatsuan. And for my, like, you know, again, like, sobriety is not for everyone, but for myself, it's something that my heart and my spirit and my mind really resonated with, because I understood how, like, these substances were kind of just not really, they were making my life worse. And so for myself, I've been sober now, I want to say this summer it'll be 3 years that I've been sober. And so I had a really I was really scared and nervous wanting to make this change because I had a lot of friends who still drank, and I was kind of just like, oh, are they going to view me as like boring or like a loser? Are they not going to want to hang out with me anymore because I don't party and I don't drink? And it was really I was really, really scared and nervous, and I didn't know how I was going to go about it, but I knew I needed to make this change because it felt right in my heart, and it felt right, for my spirit to make this change. And I was actually surprised when I had a bigger support from people than I really thought I would. People were like, that's amazing for you. And, I did get a bit distance from people, obviously, but I think from getting sober, it introduced me to just a greater support circle and a greater group of people also that have come into my life now that I was able to get sober, that I probably maybe would have never met them or been connected with them if I didn't make that change. And so I think from making that choice to be sober, that's how I got into powwow dancing, actually, was because I had some mentors who they kind of told me that they're like, when you're making changes, when you're changing your habits, and you are replacing a negative habit for yourself, you have to replace it with a positive one. And so they encouraged me to start powwow dancing and to start learning that, how to do that. And so I was kind of shy and nervous at first, but I just felt I feel like powwow dancing just kind of came to me. It came to me at a time in my life when I was ready to start doing it, because I did grow up dancing, but I grew up doing contemporary styles of dance, like jazz and ballet and hip hop and stuff like that. And so I did those forms of dance for I want to say 10 or 12 years, I think, growing up. And so I was used to dancing. I was used to kind of being on stage and performing and dancing in front of other people. So it was kind of, I wasn't really nervous about that, but it was just, I think about dancing to the drum beat. I was just I feel like I'm going to be a bad dancer, or people are going to judge me because I didn't grow up doing it, or I didn't grow up in a powwow family. I didn't grow up doing it. So I feel like people were going to be like, well, no, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. And, but yeah, so I feel like it came to me at a time when I was ready, and, when I was ready to start doing it and ready to start dancing in the circle. And dancing has been something that too has really helped me to live that meo pamatsuan. It's helped me to stay sober. It's helped me to, live my life in a good way. And it's introduced a lot of really good mentors and really, really good people into my life. And, one of them is my partner, James Jones. We got introduced to each other through powwow and dancing. And so him too is another way I live my meo pamatsuan. And so I'm really, really grateful and thankful to have met him, because he's just really helped me to just stay on a good path and just live my life in a good way. And we really, really just support each other so much in our goals and in our healing. And, we just are really understanding of each other also. But another mentor that I have through powwow is Alicia Cardinal. She's a really, really amazing, talented fancy dancer. And she's just so humble and so loving and so supportive of me and my journey. And through powwow, I've really just had a lot of amazing mentors come into my life, and a lot of amazing women who have just been so supportive of me and my journey, and just helped me to learn and help me to grow as a dancer, help me to learn to bead, learn to sew. And so, dancing really, it's something that's just been really, really good for my spirit, because I'm someone who suffers a lot with just mental and emotional problems and issues. And so activities like dancing really, really help with that, because I struggle a lot to stay in the moment and be present in the moment and live in the moment, because I'll think I'll be dwelling on the past, or I'll be worrying about the future. And I've heard that there's a lot of Indigenous elders who say that, living in the past causes depression, and living in the future causes anxiety. And so for myself, I have a hard time, living in the moment a lot. And so dancing is one of those activities that helps me to be in the moment. It helps me to be in my brain and in my body. And it's something that, I'm when I'm doing it, it's like I'm just so in the moment, and it's like that's all that I'm thinking about. I'm just engaged in like what I'm doing in that moment. I'm not worrying about the past or stressing about the future. And so dancing has just been such good medicine for my mind, my body, and my spirit. And my mentor, Alicia Cardinal, talks about how powwow dancing fulfills all your aspects of your health, your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And I really, really, truly can feel that and believe that, when we dance, we're taught to pray, we're taught to, dance for those who can't, dance for those who need healing, and dance for those who are no longer here anymore. And so it's been something that's really helped me to just improve all aspects of my health and just really live that meo pamatsuan. And I'm excited to be able to, teach my kids that and to be able to show them that way of life, because I didn't have that growing up. And I think just learning to powwow dance too has inspired my siblings. Like my sister started dancing this summer too, because she looks up to me so much, and she wants to literally like be me. And so it's been a huge, I don't know, I'm really, really grateful for powwow, and I'm grateful it came on my path when it did. If it was any sooner or later, I don't know how things would have been, but I think it came to me like at the right time. And, everything with powwow has just been, things have just come into my life that it's been simple. I have so many amazing mentors who have helped me and taught me, and I had a mentor from out east who she gifted me a fancy shawl outfit. And, it was just through that, that community building and just making those connections too, that I've been able to have amazing mentors like that who support me, and they're so generous and loving of me and my journey and everything. And so, just dancing and movement has been such an important part of my journey. And I'm just really, really grateful that I have met all the amazing mentors that I have. And I'm excited. One of my goals this summer is to hold a fancy shawl special, because the powwow circle has given me so much in my life, and it's helped me to change and to grow so much as a person. And I want to be able to give back to that circle, and so I want to have a special and just be able to give back and just honor that circle and honor all the people who have given just so much to me. And even when I pass on and I transition to the spirit world, I would love to be able to like put money aside to be able to hold like a memorial special, just because I think it's like, so powwow has just given me so much, and I want to be able to give back because of how much it's really truly given me and just changed my life for the better, and just brought a lot of really amazing people into my life. And it's just something that, I really want to be a part of my lifestyle for a very long time. And also just movement, outside of powwow dancing is another way that I really live that meo pamatsuan, because I grew up as an athlete. I grew up kind of playing hockey. I did dance, volleyball, did a lot of like long distance running and track and field, because my dad was so my parents had me when they were quite young. My mom was 18 and my dad was 21. And so I think my dad kind of was wishing he had a boy, because he just put me in all the sports, and just that's kind of what my life was as a kid. Was I just was so invested in sports. And I was like, I remember in junior high, like it was like almost like every day of my week, I was like doing like at least 2 different sports a day. And then like weekends were filled with sports too. But I grew up with it as an athlete. And so that's my reason for moving back then was sports, because I was committed to that. I was committed to, my sports and my hockey teams and everything. And so that was my main reason for movement. And I played at the university level for a couple years, but school was never my thing when I was younger. I didn't like it. I had troubles like kind of just being present at school and just like everything. And so just school was not really my thing. And so when I went to university straight out of high school, I really struggled. It was my main reason for being there was hockey, but I didn't know what I wanted to study. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up or whatever. Even though I felt like I was grown up, I was like, well, I still don't know what I want to do. I still don't really know why I'm here, but I'm going to go play hockey. And so that was really my main reason for moving when I was younger. And so when I saw playing competitive hockey at the university level and everything, I kind of struggled to find like reasons to move my body and like, you know, to take care of myself, because it, you know, my reason no longer was sports or competitive sports. And so I kind of struggled for a bit, like after I quit playing hockey, and I did gain like a bit of weight and everything. And I kind of saw my body and my mind, my spirit go through changes that I really kind of never had seen before. And so it wasn't until I really kind of, just started changing my perspective on movement and just not viewing it as like something that I have to do. Like it's something that I get to do. And so I think changing my perspective on it has really helped a lot to just live that meal pamatsuan, because I no longer place like, you know, expectations, or I'm not hard on myself about it, because I just view it as something that like I get to do. And, you know, like for me, like it's a huge privilege to be able to move my body. And, you know, it's just a way also that just like I can thank Creator for, you know, this body that He's given me to come to earth and experience this life, you know, because like people say, you know, we're not a body with a spirit, we're like a spirit with a body inside a body kind of thing. And so just movement has been really one way that's just really been, I've been able to live that meal pamatsuan and just really changing my perspective on it too, and just being more gentle with myself. And like, you know, it's a journey, you know, it's really, that's what I like to say is that, you know, it's my movement, my wellness, my health and fitness journey. It's a journey because it's meant to take us to different places. You know, it's not meant to be just a linear progression. It's a journey. It's a roller coaster. It's all over. It's, you know, it's up and down. It's good and bad. You know, your weight's going to change, your muscle's going to change, you know, you're going to lose weight, gain weight, you know, lose muscle, gain muscle. And you know, you're going to go through illnesses and sicknesses or obstacles in your journey. But again, like it's about the journey, and it's about the lessons you learn and everything. And even just myself recently, I got COVID back in, when was this? End of August. So it was after a summer of like good powwowing and like traveling and everything, and like doing dancing gigs with my partner James. And we ended up getting COVID at the end of summer, and we were unvaccinated, and we got the Delta variant, and it really hit me very hard. Like I was bedridden for about 3 weeks. Like even after I finished my 2-week isolation, I was like not in any place to like go anywhere or do anything. And we've had some long lasting effects of, you know, getting COVID, and it's had long lasting effects on our health. Like I could not like smell or properly taste for like months afterwards, which just like affected my energy like so much, because I just didn't have an appetite. Like I would be so hungry, but I didn't have an appetite to eat because like I couldn't smell food and I couldn't really taste it. And so like I just didn't really want to eat. And so it caused me to just like, I lost a bit of weight, a bit of muscle, and a lot of stamina and just energy. And it's really affected like my dancing. And that's something that I've had to really be gentle on myself with over the last few months, is just like getting my stamina and my cardio and my energy like back up to where it was before I got COVID. Because I remember it was like the last powwow we went to before we got COVID. It was out in Soto in Saskatchewan, and my sister was there with us. It was just me, James, and my sister. We brought her with us, and it was fun. It was like we were practicing for when we're parents and stuff. But I remember we danced like all the intertribals, and like I was just like giving her just so hard like for like a couple hours. And now like, you know, and even when we would practice before like we got COVID, like we would go dance like about 10 songs, like just outside somewhere, like no problem, kind of like almost back to back, like 10 songs we just put on shuffle and go. And like now I'm like, I can like barely dance like 3 songs, you know, like back to back. So it's like, I've really had to just be gentle on myself and my mind and my body and my spirit as I'm recovering still, and just knowing that, you know, it's a part of my journey. It's a part of my health and my wellness journey. And so just embracing that, embracing the lessons, and just, it's a good reminder to like, to just, you know, be thankful for your health and be grateful for your health, because when your health's not in a good place, like, you know, life is a lot harder. And so it's just taught me to just be really grateful for my health and the body and the mind and the spirit that I have, and to not take it for granted, because like, you know, like things can just change so quickly. And so just, yeah, learning to just have a different perspective on movement, and just using it as a tool to, like, you know, just help better myself in every aspect of my health has really just helped me to live that Mio Pamatsuan. And so that's kind of really all I have to share with you all today. Before we finish though, I just wanted to show off my ribbon skirt, because we've been doing so many like virtual things, and I was like, oh, I don't even get to show off my skirt, but I just wanted to show it off because I'm so proud of it. It was made by Osaron, but yeah, I was like, well, if I was in person, you know, everyone would get to see it, but you guys only get to just see my little upper half here. But I wanted to show that off, and I just wanted to thank all of you here. Thank everyone for being here, for listening to me, listening to, you know, some of my story and some ways that, you know, I live that Mio Pamatsuan. And it's a huge honor to be able to just have opportunities and experiences like this, because like I said, when I was a kid, I would have never, ever imagined myself doing things like this, or even like I recently did like a video shoot with Nike, and like, you know, I talked about how, like, you know, I was just such a shy kid, and I was not confident or brave enough to express my dreams or chase after my goals, because I just didn't really believe in myself. And so it was when I started to believe in myself and start believing that, you know, I deserve to live that Mio Pamatsuan, and whatever that means to me. And like, that's really when I feel I started to start living that. And so I'm just grateful to be able to just sit here and speak with you all today. And I really encourage you all to, you know, live your Mio Pamatsuan, and however that is for you, you know, whatever is inside your heart, your soul, just believe that you deserve it and you're capable of it. But hi, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kendra, for sharing your story. That was really beautiful. I just want to remind everyone that right now there's going to be a break, and then at 12:15 we're going to have an Afro-Indigenous session with Aaliyah LaValle-Lewis. So take your break, have lunch, have a coffee, do whatever you need to do, and we'll be back at 12:15. Thank you.